You know exactly what I'm talking about. Things are going well, really well. There's a genuine spark. She's reaching out first. The conversations flow naturally. She's laughing, she's present, she's giving you every signal that this could be the beginning of something real. And then something shifts inside you. Quietly, almost involuntarily, you start catching feelings. Not just attraction, something heavier, something that carries possibility and hope and the thought that this could actually be something. And instead of that making things better, the dynamic changes. She gets slightly harder to reach. Replies slow down. The warmth cools by a few degrees, and you're sitting there thinking, what did I do wrong? When you genuinely know, you didn't do anything. You just started caring. And somehow, that was enough to change everything. This is one of the most disorienting experiences in early dating, because it feels completely backwards. You care more, she pulls back more. You open up more, she closes down. Your logic says that genuine feeling should produce genuine connection. That's how it works with friendships, with family, with almost every other relationship in your life. The more you care, the deeper things grow. But with attraction, specifically in those fragile early weeks before something real has been established, that logic gets flipped on its head. Understanding why it flips is the difference between the man who keeps repeating this pattern and the man who finally breaks free of it. Here's what actually happens. The surface explanation most people give is that she sensed neediness. And that's true, but it doesn't go deep enough. It doesn't explain the mechanism. When you start catching real feelings, when the outcome starts genuinely mattering to you, your relationship to the uncertainty changes completely. In the beginning, before those feelings arrived with all their weight, you were comfortable not knowing how things would go. You could hold the uncertainty loosely. You could be fully present in a moment without needing that moment to promise anything. And that ability to be present without needing it to go anywhere is actually one of the most attractive qualities a man can have early on. Because it makes every interaction feel light. It makes her feel like she's simply enjoying something, not deciding something. Like there's no pressure attached, like she can just be there. Then the feelings land, and suddenly the uncertainty isn't something you can hold loosely anymore. It becomes something you need to resolve. It sits at the back of your mind in every conversation, quietly pulling your attention away from being present with her and toward monitoring where things are going. You start reading her signals for confirmation. You start managing your behavior to protect the possibility rather than just experiencing it. You become slightly less willing to say something that might create friction because you can't afford friction the way you could when you had less to lose. You've become more focused on how she's receiving you than on genuinely experiencing her. And she feels that shift. Not in any single dramatic moment, in the texture of 100 small things, in the way your energy is slightly less free, in the way your responses carry a little more weight than they used to. The whole dynamic starts to feel like it's about something, like it's carrying an expectation that wasn't there before, like she's being watched and hoped toward in a way that makes the whole thing feel less free and more fragile. And the moment it feels like something with stakes, something instinctive in her wants to create distance. Not because she doesn't like you, sometimes precisely because she does. Because distance is the only way to release the pressure without having a conversation she doesn't know how to have. This is the cruel mathematics of early attraction. The more it matters to you, the more your behavior reveals that it matters. And the more pressure that creates, the more it suffocates the very thing that was working. The harder you try to manage it, the more obvious it becomes. You can't perform your way back to the ease that existed before the feelings arrived. You can only find a way to actually carry those feelings without letting them change your relationship to the outcome. Now, let me tell you what it looks like when a man can actually do that. When a man can feel something real and not let it corrupt the quality of his presence. A lot of men assume this means being emotionally shut down, guarded, pretending not to care. That's not it. That version is just as detectable and just as unattractive in its own way. The man who gets this right is not a man who doesn't feel. He feels deeply, he's just not governed by the feeling. He knows it's there, he respects it, and he also knows that the feeling is his to carry, not hers to manage. He doesn't need her to respond in a certain way in order to feel okay. He can be warm, genuinely interested, fully present, and still fundamentally fine if this doesn't become what he's hoping it becomes. Not because he's protecting himself with emotional distance, because he's rooted deeply enough in his own life that no single external outcome can destabilize that root. That quality, feeling without grasping, wanting without needing, being genuinely invested without staking your piece on the outcome, is one of the rarest and most magnetic things a man can bring into an early connection. So what actually creates it? Because telling yourself, don't catch feelings, or detach from the outcome is useless advice without understanding what makes that possible. It's not technique, it's not willpower, it's not telling yourself not to care. What makes it possible is having a life so genuinely full, so directional, so rich with things you're building and pursuing, that she becomes something wonderful happening inside that life, rather than the thing your whole life has been waiting for. When your mornings have purpose before you check your phone, when your days have momentum that exists regardless of whether she replied, when your identity is stable and clear and genuinely yours, then when the feelings arrive, they have somewhere solid to land. They add to something rather than becoming the whole thing. And because they aren't the whole thing, they don't take over. They don't warp your behavior. They don't turn you into someone who monitors and manages and hopes too loudly. They just exist as part of a full life, not a substitute for one. Now, the specific moment she pulls back, because this is where most men make the mistake that ends things. The moment her energy shifts and your nervous system goes on alert, the instinct is to reach toward her, to fill the gap. Another message, a plan, something that says I'm still here, please come back. And every one of those moves, however genuine, confirms exactly what pushed her back in the first place. It tells her that her withdrawal worked, that you need her warmth to feel okay, and confirming that will never bring her closer. It only ever pushes her further. The counterintuitive move, the one that actually works, is to let the gap exist. Not as a game, not as a strategy, but because your life is full enough that the gap, while noticed, doesn't require immediate filling. You let her have her space. You return your attention to the things that were there before she arrived. You give her room to come back on her own, rather than chasing her back. And one of two things happens. Either she comes back, drawn by the fact that you didn't collapse into the distance, that you were still the man she was attracted to, or she doesn't, and your life, full and directional as it is, continues. And you're okay, not performing okay, actually okay. Both outcomes require the same thing from you. A life that doesn't stop when she pauses, an identity that doesn't waver when she steps back, a foundation built on something real that her presence adds to, without her absence demolishing. That's the work, and it is real work. It doesn't happen from reading the right thing or watching the right video, though understanding it matters. It happens in the daily, unglamorous, no-audience choices of a man building something real. The morning you get up and work on what you're building before you check your phone. The afternoon you keep your own plans instead of clearing your schedule because she suddenly became available. The conversation where you say what you actually think instead of calculating what will keep her interested. The moment you feel the pull to reach into the gap, and you trust your life enough to let the gap breathe. Catch the feelings. Feel them fully. Let them be real. And then carry them like a man who has somewhere to be, something to build, and the settled certainty that whoever is meant to be part of that life will be drawn to it. Not chased into it, not pressured into it, not needed into it. The version of you who feels deeply and isn't governed by the feeling. That's who she was trying to find when she first pulled back to see what was underneath. Show her he's still there, not by telling her, by being him.